So who's scaring you? The younger one. The oldest brother.
So I have the oldest, and that's Larry, John, Anthony, Marie, and Joe's the youngest.
They must have had fun out there. Yeah.
You're having the first time, right?
But I don't know.
I don't know what's going to be.
You can answer the questions better. But
Also, I talked to Mr. Brian
oh, so we're not really good at the
if anything comes out of my school,
no.
and they both lay around here if they have questions.
Okay. All right. Okay.
That way, we don't do that anymore.
Well, that's what I thought. Yeah.
They just both they know that I'm here and they can ask questions.
Okay. If we ask you about the CCR letter, that is, I'm working on getting that from Ken. It's just
They're seriously worried about it. They just say, hey, this can issue in
so what turning forward so do you guys have to stay?
Do I have to say this?
No, not Alan.
Oh, there's only two things on the agenda to bring both of these. You said it would be short. Oh, so date night.
It's not bad. It was nice for you to come with them.
I've been to a few before, and they're interesting. So
Yeah. Well, this
over
one,
my head.
he's doing the 400 block, isn't he? Yeah. Seriously.
I've been to a few of those.
Yeah.
It was a while. I'm like, okay.
Well, hey, that's not a bad thing.
Agenda here. All right. I will now call this meeting to order. Good evening and welcome to the Thursday of the February 28th City of Hollister Planning Commission meeting. And I will ask for a verification of agenda posting, please.
Good evening. The agenda was posted on Friday, February 22nd at 11:37 a.m.
Thank you, Brian. Commissioner Stevens, will you lead us into the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Roxanne. So roll call, please.
Chairperson Huboy.
Here.
Commissioner Stevens.
Here.
Commissioner Munzer.
Here.
Doesn't appear Commissioner Johnson is available, and Commissioner Henderson had an excused absence.
Okay. Well, we do have a quorum. So I'm going to, first order of business is to ask for the approval of minutes dated January 24th, 2019. I entertain a motion for that.
I will make the motion to approve the minutes of January 24th as written.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The minutes are approved. We go into communications from the public on items not listed on the agenda. Are there any speaker cards for items not on the agenda?
I have nothing, Chairperson Huboy, unless someone from the audience would like to submit something.
Is there anyone in the audience who would care to speak on any item not on the agenda? Okay. No speakers.
Commissioner Huboy, I was just brought to the attention at this time that there was a letter that was issued for RVs and RV and boat. Right now, there is as you know, the city is working on the vehicle code in regards to amending the RV and boat ordinance, and so just wanted to put in the record that there was a letter that was submitted to the city council and to staff, and so we'll have a copy of the letter in to all of you if you don't have it yet.
It's on your.
Yeah, it's an email. It's an email. Thank you, Commissioner Roxanne. And so it's just submitted for your review, and we'll eventually bring that item for discussion very soon, more than likely by the next Planning Commission meeting.
Okay, thank you for that, Abraham.
You're welcome.
So we go to item number 1 on the public hearing agenda, Site and Architectural Review number 2019-4. Steel Solutions, Gillian Enns, the applicant, is requesting site and architectural approval for the construction of a 22,800 square feet building with 8 tenant spaces on a 1.695 acre site. No land use is proposed at this time. The project is located within the M1 Light Industrial Zoning District at 365 Apollo Court, further identified as San Benito County Assessor's Parcel Number 051-170-004, and the sequel is categorically exempt. Staff report, please.
Sure. Thank you, Chairman Huboy. As you mentioned, the proposed project is a 22,800 square foot building on a 1.695 acre site. The property is an undeveloped parcel located in the M1 Light Industrial Zoning District of the City of Hollister at 365 Apollo Court, just to the west of the City of Hollister Police Department Station. The floor plan at this time is proposed as a shell building. However, any future land uses will have to be consistent with the zoning designation of M1 Light Industrial Zoning District. The building would be positioned approximately 35 feet from Apollo Court. The first 35 feet would be, as you can see in one of the plans and up in the screen, landscaped area. So there would be about a 35-foot setback to the front Apollo Court. Then from there would be an area of about 90 feet in width and 60 feet in length that would commence the building. Then it would, and 24 feet in height. Then the building would step up to 36 feet, and it would be 120 feet wide and an additional 100 feet in length for a proposed 4 tenant spaces, and it would come back down to 24 feet in height and another 60 feet in length for another proposed 2 tenant spaces, for a total of 8 tenant spaces as proposed at this time. The elevations consist of, along Apollo Court on the north elevation, there would be horizontal long board panel, exterior with multiple rectangular windows along the north, along the east as well, facing the police station, and along the west as well. The building, as mentioned, also will step up to 36 feet in height, and it would have a vertical board facade to change it up a little bit, with the flat roof canopy at the center and rectangular windows up above, with roll-up garage doors in the bottom. The taller ceiling height at the center of the building could facilitate office spaces or other tenant improvements on a second floor in the future. However, there is not any proposed second floor at this time. As you can see on the screen, you see the different elevations as well. The previous slide showed a color elevation. Circulation would consist of access from Apollo Court. There would be two 25 feet in width driveways onto the site, one on the eastern side closer to the police station and one on the western side. And the 25-foot axis would basically loop around the building all the way around 360 degrees. And there would be 88 parking stalls for the building, with at minimum 4 being for American with Disability Act accessible, with a non-obstructed access to the front of the building. There will also be 2 trash enclosures, one on the east side of the building and one on the west side of the building, towards the center to have to be able to be accessible for all tenants. The site comprises of 16.5 approximately % of total site area would be landscaping. They would be different types of trees, shrubs, and ground cover. There would be trees along Apollo Court, along the east elevation, west elevation, and south rear elevation as well. The property is located near the airport, within the airport influence area, and so therefore there is a condition in the attached resolution that requires that prior to issuance of building permits, the applicant should receive a consistency determination with the Airport Land Use Comprehensive Plan from the Airport Land Use Commission, and so that is required prior to building permit, and we'll make sure that occurs for any of the proposed uses that would be consistent with the M1 Light Industrial Zoning District. So with that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission review the applicant's request, receive all written and oral testimony regarding the proposal, and consider approving said and architectural application number 2019-4, subject to the findings and conditions contained in the draft resolution. Are there any questions for staff?
Just a comment on, I know this is, we talked about this quite some time ago. I don't even know, it was maybe been before you.
Really? Let's see.
How long has it been now? 12 years?
12 years.
12 years.
Yeah.
I think it was, you may remember that on the site plans that, for what our expectations are to show accessible routes. Now, I can see that, you can figure out the accessible route.
Right.
That would go to the public access, the sidewalk, and then, the accessible entrances into the building.
Correct.
So for some reason, and I'm not picking on this particular application, but we're not showing it. I know we've shown it on some, but
right.
I think that it's important to show that. So just to be mindful in the future when we see, especially for like shopping centers, to see pedestrian routes on shopping centers, the striped path. And this one can be just easily shown with just a dashed arrow. I think that's what I like to see on these site plans. You're
absolutely right, Chairman Huboy. And we do require that with full detail at building permit stage, but we will make sure that
for future. Just show some simple diagrams to show that this has been addressed.
Absolutely.
The other question I had is on the siding. Is it metal or wood? Probably metal, right?
I believe so. It's a Butler, but the applicant is here as well, and they can answer the type of siding with full detail if required.
Okay. Any other questions on the staff report?
Just one. I'm just trying to still, get my feet wet as a new commissioner and trying to figure out mostly process. So,
sure.
Since this plan is just being proposed as shell, I think like a shell of a building, right? There's not any detail in it. What then could we expect to get in terms of information about what will it be used for, how will it be used? I know it's light industrial, obviously, to fit in that within that realm.
You got it, yes.
But just curious about that, and what would be the next steps, including what would be some of the things, the approval that are needed as we're moving.
Absolutely, Commissioner Roxanne. That's a really good question. At this point, pending approval by the Planning Commission, then the applicant will then have 2 years for submittal to the building department for building permits, and for the building of the actual building per the conditions of approval of the resolution. And so at that point, if hopefully by that time they would have some type of land uses that would go into the building. If not, then at the building permit stage, the building official is going to want to make sure that when the building is developed, that everything on the plans are shown regarding accessibility, regarding number of bathrooms, regarding how the building is going to be constructed, access, every detail. And then when somebody wants to come in and actually lease one of the spaces, then at that point they would have to come through the City of Hollister Finance Department to basically get a business license. Mm-hmm. But before that, they would have to come to check with the planning department to make sure that the use that they are proposing is within the permitted requirements of the M1 Light Industrial Zoning District. And so in that zoning district, we have what's permitted by right, that can come in any building, whether it be a new building or whether it be an existing building that is vacant and a new use wants to come in, or what would be allowed with a conditional use permit. Usually conditional use permit on the M1 light industrial building would be anything that falls within like a commercial type of use. Because a commercial type of use should really be in the general commercial zoning district, but our zoning code allows for commercial use to be allowed in the industrial zoning district with a conditional use permit. And if that's the case, then that use would have to come before the Planning Commission for approval. And so there are some uses that may not necessarily fall as a permitted use that would have to come here for approval. And so that's just that would be handled at the planning department stage prior to them being able to come in. And a lot of the times, a particular use may need modifications of the tenant space. There may be a use that may want to use the size of 2 tenant spaces of the building. So if that's the case, they would come before the building department and make modifications to be able to fit on that particular size. And that's handled administratively. One of the things that would require an additional entitlement from the Planning Commission would be that the use that's proposed requires a conditional use permit because it's not permitted by right.
Right.
Yeah. And then normally when it's submitted to the building department, it's usually a 2-week process. And then within the 2 weeks, the building department says, you have everything you need for your permit, here you go, or here are the things that are missing from a full submittal. And then they will give them a plan check written comment letter, and then their engineer or architect would be able to respond to that and get their entitlements. And normally, once they get a building permit, they have 6 months to start the building permit, the building of the actual building.
Okay. Thanks for that detailed explanation. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I appreciate that question because I did have some questions that were connected, related to the use.
Sure.
And I just assume talk to the applicant regarding it.
Chairperson Huboy, I don't mean to interrupt. I just want to let the record show that Commissioner Johnson.
I'm so sorry that I'm late.
It's okay.
I thought it was 6:30, just holding my thought.
No worries.
You haven't missed much. Okay, welcome.
Thank you.
So any other questions or comments on the staff report? Okay, with no further comments, I'll open up the public hearing now, at 6:23. Are there any speaker cards?
None on this item.
Is the applicant here to address the commission?
She is.
Good evening. I'm
Good evening.
Gillian.
Hi.
Hi.
I just had a question on I was looking at and part of it was related to Roxanne's questioning there, is on you're showing on the site plan, Alan is showing infrastructure for future restrooms.
Yes.
Looks like it's going down the center there.
Mm-hmm.
When you do the construction, I guess you're going to do the slab and then get the tenant, whatever, depending on the tenant, that would determine whether or not you probably need 2 restrooms or 1 all-gender restroom. Is a reason why you're not putting in the restrooms to allow for flexibility for perhaps commercial or industrial use? I know if it's industrial, the occupant load would be very, very minimal, so you may be able to just require 1 restroom. But with the plan, the way it's laid out, I guess you're looking for flexibility of use. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Even though it might be a little-
Depending on who the tenant would be, if it was one tenant, they would just build out the restroom towards the front of the building. And then if there are multi-tenants, they would build out according to what the tenant required.
I see. Okay. So because I know that that commercial actually commercial loading in terms of occupant loads is different from industrial, and therefore it looks like you may have future commercial tenants and then go through the conditional use permit process.
Possibly.
Yeah.
That would be entirely up to the owner.
Okay. All right.
And your question on the siding, that is a metal siding, but the tenant is also considering a plaster siding. So it would look more like a concrete facade.
I see. So if they do change the elevations from what we're looking at tonight, and we do approve this, then it'll have to, if it's not significant in terms of change on the elevations, I think that can be handled administratively.
Yes, and the owner intends to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Am I correct on that?
You're correct, Chairman Hugo. If it's considered to be significantly different, then yes. But if it's just on the change of the exterior, that should more than likely be something that can be done administratively.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Gil.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Any other speakers care to address the commission on item number 1? No further speakers. I will close the public hearing now at 6:25. I'd like to say is that I think that the elevations, some nice proportions there. I like the way that the building looks.
I'd have to agree with you as well, Commissioner
I like
Huber.
that.
The elevation of this and the layout and the steps and the levels, it's a beautiful looking building.
It is. I commend the applicant and MH Engineering for doing a good job as usual. Okay, so any other comments on this item number 1 from the commission?
No, other than to agree with both of you, I think it's really a lovely building. Looks nice.
Looks very nice. So, I mean, regardless of the material, if you do change it to plaster, or it's still, I mean, the color scheme would be certainly important to evaluate, but I think that primarily you're on the right track with the proportions. So, I mean, it's the embellishment is not as important as, for me, as the proportions of the building, and I think it's a handsome building. Okay, so without any further discussion or comments on item number 1, what is the pleasure of the Planning Commission? Entertain a motion.
I would like to make the motion to approve the site and architectural approval with the subjects and findings and conditions contained in the draft resolution, number 2019-8.
And the PC resolution is number?
That's the one,
That is it?
2019-8, the PC resolution number. Yes, thank you for that clarification.
Okay. I have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion on that motion? Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item number 1 has been approved. Congratulations. Okay, so now we go on to, I'll read this and then I'll acknowledge that we do have a letter that was submitted this evening
Yes,
regarding item number 2.
very well.
Okay. So this item number 2 is a minor subdivision number 2019-1, conditional use permit number 2018-14 for a planned unit development and tentative map number 2019-1. Del Curto Brothers Construction, the applicant is requesting a minor subdivision to abandon the section of Briggs Alley located between the property identified as APN 054-110-036 to the north and APN 054-110-016 and 054-110-030 to the south, and dedicating half of the width and length of the alley to the northern property and the other half of the alley to the southern property. The applicant is also requesting tentative map approval and a conditional use permit for a planned unit development to make into condominiums a 3-story mixed-use building with 6 commercial retail units on the first floor, 11 residential units on the second floor, and 11 residential units on the third floor, as approved by Planning Commission Resolution number 2018-39 on September 27th, 2018, for a site and architectural review application number 2018-18. The conditional use permit will also include a residential density bonus pursuant to Section 17.04.070, Article 2, density bonus of the Hollister Municipal Code. The properties are located within the downtown mixed-use zoning district at 365 San Benito Street, further identified as San Benito County Assessor Parcels Number 054-110-036, 054-110-016, and 054-110-030. CEQA is categorically exempt. I'll leave it up to you.
Yeah, thank you,
Take it
Chairman,
away.
Chairperson Huvoy. We appreciate that introduction. We do want to indicate that just a little while ago, a little after 4 p.m., the staff received a letter from Robert, actually an email from Robert Perlmutter from Schutt, Mahaley, and Weinberger LLP. The letter indicates, or the email in the letter indicates, this firm represents Ignacio Velasquez in connection with the above reference proposed approval for mixed-use development on the 400 block in downtown Hollister. And so we received that comment letter a little bit after 4 o'clock, as mentioned today. So we haven't really had a chance to be able to review thoroughly and be able to respond and comment thoroughly. So because of that, staff would like to request a continuance on this item. And if it is the direction of the Planning Commission to open up the public hearing, receive all comments from the public, and continue the item to a date certain of March 28th, 2019, which is our next regular Planning Commission meeting.
Question, if we open up the public hearing and then we continue the item, we'll open up the public hearing again at that time, right?
That's correct.
correct?
You may be able to open it up at that time. Thanks, Jason.
Wow. Okay, so what is the consensus here of the commission regarding this information that we received at, the staff received it at 4 o'clock. I just looked at it and just received it at 5:30. Do you want to continue this item to, what's it, March 28th?
Next regular meeting would be at March 28th. That's correct, 2019.
I'm just looking this over, and I'm thinking that and I think, I don't know what the protocol is when we receive information. Sometimes we receive a one-letter item or, something that is fairly brief, and that we continue the discussion of that item that night. But there's
Correct.
a lot of information here
Correct.
to digest, and I in all fairness, I don't know if there's a time limit on receiving this information, but I think since we're receiving that you got it at 4 o'clock, and I didn't. This is the first time I've seen this letter. I think that, in all fairness, I would be in support of continuing the item until March 28th.
I too would agree with the continuance waiting until March 28th because it said I got it too about a half an hour before I rolled. That's why I was late. I was trying to get it printed out so that I could have it, and so not being able to read it all the way through, I don't think it's fair for anyone involved to
Makes sense.
to be trying to agree or not agree on something unless we have all of it. And when you've had a chance to review it, we've had a chance to review it.
Good.
So I think.
I agree. I mean, I'm in agreement. I saw it at like 5:30 right before I was getting ready to leave, and I read like the first 2 pages, and I realized it was a really long document, so I didn't finish reading it. There were some concerns about density, and I also had some concerns even before I read that. So I think it would be prudent if we waited until next month so we have a little bit more time, and also because when the conversation. So I spoke with Abraham yesterday, and he gave me a lot of information about this project, and I think that some of the information now I want to clarify.
Sure.
Because I think there's going to be more confusion now, at least for me. So I would appreciate a continuance.
So I believe we have consensus. Do we need to vote on this?
Chairperson Huboy, I would recommend that you do vote on it. However, I would recommend that a motion that's voted on be saved until after you open the public hearing, if in fact that's what the commission intends to do this evening.
Okay. So
I'm sorry, I should rephrase that. Open the public hearing and receive input from the public.
Okay.
Then close it and then make a motion.
Okay. Thank you, Jason. I will now open up the public hearing at 6:35. Speaker cards on this item?
None.
None. No one from the audience wants to approach the commission on this? Okay. With no speakers, I close the public hearing now at 6:35. Bring it back to the commission and let's vote on this. I need a motion on the continuance.
So I'll make a motion to continue this item on the 400 block. Do I have to be more specific about that?
You can just
Okay.
say
So item number 4 on the agenda. Is that what it is?
number 2.
Item number 2 on the agenda. So I propose to postpone it until our next scheduled Planning Commission meeting, March 28th.
I second that.
I'm sorry. May I recommend an amendment to that motion for you to consider? I would add to it only, and that the public hearing be reopened on March 28th, 2019 at the next Planning Commission meeting, if that was your intent.
Okay. So I'm going to add to my motion that at that time we reopen the public part of the meeting.
Very well.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion? Do I have a second?
I have a second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
This item is continued until March 28th, and at that time the public hearing will be reopened. Let's see what's next here. Okay. So we go to item 3. This item on item 3 is also an item to be continued to a future Planning Commission meeting. So I don't think there's any requirement that I read the description of it.
We do have a speaker card, Chairperson Huboy, so we probably...
On item number 3?
Yeah, we should probably should open
up the public hearing for item number 3.
Yep.
Okay, so we're not going to have a staff report, and I'm not going to read the description of the item. Well, if we do have a speaker card, I will read the description of the item. Site and Architectural 2018-19, Jose Rodriguez. The applicant is requesting site and architectural approval to construct a 10,000 square foot industrial warehouse on 6.57 acres located at 110 Fallon Road, further identified as San Benito County Assessor Parcel 051-120-019. This parcel is located in the light industrial M1 zoning district, north of Fallon Road and east of Technology Parkway. CEQA is categorically exempt. So, we do have a speaker card on this, and whoever wants to address the commission on item number 3.
Yep, it's Miss Ann Hall.
Chairman Huboy, could you open the public hearing for the record, please?
I didn't
Thank
open
you.
up the public hearing. Okay. Thank you for that. Okay, open up the public hearing at 6:39. Good evening, Ann.
Good evening, Chairman Huboy. I realize this is being continued. I understand that. And my only request was, could we continue it to a date certain of March 28th rather than just to a future meeting? Just so we know that we're coming back. I know we've had conversation with staff and we've got communication from staff, and I think their intent, according to our conversations, is that it come back March 28th. And I was just wondering if we could continue it to a date certain, which saves staff from having to do a mail out and various other things. So that was my only question.
Can I get input from staff on that request?
Yes. In the memo, you'll see that we've requested that it was put to the March 28th meeting. Unfortunately, it looks like it didn't quite make it onto the agenda, but that is the intent of staff to bring it to March 28th.
Okay.
And that's great. Just like I said, I just wanted it, if it's on record here at the Planning Commission, I think that continues it, and you don't have to redo the public notification and everything else. So, okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ann. Thank you very much. Any other speakers on item number 3?
That's all.
That is all. I close the public hearing now at 6:41. And we go to item number 4, which is an item to be continued to the March 28th, 2019 Planning Commission meeting, Site and Architectural Review 2019-1. So that concludes the public hearing agenda. We go to new business, selection of the second Planning Commissioner member of the General Plan Advisory Committee, GPAC. I'll just give you a little background on that. As I am a member of that committee. I was selected and ratified. How long ago was that now?
Must have been like 4 months ago or so.
Oh, boy. Okay, and then Gabriel Torres was also, he was also selected, but he's no longer on the commission, and we have Roxanne Stevens. Now, I have 2 commissioners who have expressed interest in this, and being on the committee. I'm going to go ahead and nominate Seth Munzer, primarily because I know that, and back in 2005, when I started out on this committee, my city planning experience was back, actually, I think it was maybe 2004. As a member of the public, it's a tremendous amount of work that's involved in being on the committee, and I know Roxanne would do a great job. Seth has expressed his interest in being on the committee, and since he's been with us for a little while longer, I've already given him the nod to that I was going to nominate him this evening, and but we don't have a full commission, so usually when we do these things, we wouldn't want a full commission just to make sure that we have a full body to have a consensus on who's going to be on this important committee.
Yeah, that's definitely you can make that decision, Chairperson Huboy, to wait until you have a full commission.
That's perfectly fine as well, because even though Commissioner Henderson is not here, he also expressed via email that he would be amenable to serve on any of the committees as well. But it's up to you, like Brian indicated.
I think I would feel more comfortable about this from my standpoint is to postpone this selection of planning commissioners to not only this committee but also on the ad hoc sign committee until we have a full commission. I don't know what you.
Can I just make a quick comment? So prior to the meeting, Seth and David and I were having a conversation about this, and we talked about the possibility of having like a discussion, like having a meeting outside of the official public commission meeting, just to discuss the two committees, and we were going to start the meeting. So Seth and I just made a quick little comment about if we were to meet, then we would need to do it all together, so that there wouldn't be any Brown Act issues, right? So I just thought I'd throw that out there. Like, is that something that we might want to do? So then at the next at the next commissioner meeting, planning commission meeting, we would be better prepared. I don't know if there's an issue with doing something like that. Like if the five of us decided to meet for coffee and then just talk a little bit about the two committees and the roles of each person that will be serving on there, et cetera.
Jason?
Commissioner Stevens, I'm sorry, I was reading something. I missed the first part of your comment. But as I understand, what you're asking is if there's some capacity for more than two of you to meet about an issue?
Actually, for all five of us to like go out, like have coffee, tea, just sit down and chit chat about this and just have a discussion about the two committees, what they're about, what the role of the people that would be serving on those committees would be. And then, you know what I mean? And then maybe talk about how we would select the people that are from this body that would serve on those two committees.
I understand the question. Thank you. Unfortunately, that would be a Brown Act violation, and the only way for that discussion to really take place is in a regular agendized meeting open to the public of the Planning Commission. Mm-hmm. This or a future one.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure on how we can fairly do this without having a discussion, kind of a roundtable discussion that would be agendized and be open to the public.
If I may, the opportunity to have those discussions is at this meeting. And so all the commissioners would need to discuss openly in front of the public the reasons as to who should be a candidate for either committee. So
I remember, kind of in a similar vein, is that, and this kind of brings me to another question for staff here, is that when this was open to the public as selecting someone from the public at large to be on this general plan steering committee, I remember that night I was here, and it was fairly well known and advertised. I'm not sure exactly how it was advertised, but there were a lot of people. There were 12 people here that evening, and we appeared before the Planning Commission. They selected 4 out of the 12, and I was one of the ones that was selected. After we did a presentation, on why we wanted to be on the committee, and that's how. And the Planning Commission selected 4. Individuals from the general public based on their presentations. Otherwise, that's all really they had to go on. And I'm not sure if we can have something kind of just in a more of an informal way of doing this within this body, is just to kind of have a discussion and then we'll just put it to a vote.
That should be okay if it's at the direction of the Planning Commission. To do so, I think that.
So I think that's the kind of format that I'm in favor of for March 28th. But the other thing is that when this committee gets going and they're going to select the city council. I believe will select the person from the general public. I'd like you guys to get the word out. I've asked you this before. To get the word out to the newspapers and advertise, because I want someone there's a lot of people that I think are well qualified. I just want to make sure they know about it. Because every time I talk to people and when I'm out doing my regular business about this committee, just when I'm at a grocery store or whatever, if I run into someone who I think is qualified, they have no idea about it. So can you guys really do a good job and put this word out?
It's really important that we do. Absolutely.
Okay. Any other discussion on that?
If I may add to it, When we were trying to seek out training, we had asked any of the commissioners if they had anything in mind that they would like to do as far as having a training. Commissioner Henderson had asked that maybe we have a Q&A. If it's all right, maybe that's a training or a discussion that we can public notice, and this could be one of those items that's later discussed.
You know, I'm really glad that you brought that up, Amber, because I know that that was another thing that I wanted to talk about this evening, and I was going to do it as a planning commissioner's report. But I think it was Roxanne. I really appreciate Roxanne looking into the conference that was sponsored by the League of Cities, and I think it went before the City Council. They were going to help us out. I think it's very, very critical that we have either a workshop or a conference, and we have it as soon as possible, because there's a lot of important issues that are coming before us, and we have 3 new commissioners. I don't know what, I know you guys were on the ball trying to get us. I appreciate you jumping on it to get us enrolled within that conference put on by the League of Cities. From my discussion with you, Brian, it was sold out in 4 hours.
It's even been less than 4 hours. Mm-hmm. I mean, it went fast.
Well, they'll have another one, right? But it's probably months from now.
In a year. It's once a year.
Does Monterey still do that? Anyone?
I've tried looking into Monterey because I thought the same thing, and I haven't been able to find anything within the state. Yeah. We'll keep looking, but as of right now, we haven't found anything. We were discussing with the materials that are made available. They have all of the presentations, so right now we're able to access those slides. We're hoping that after they have those meetings, there's a recording that goes with it. Mm-hmm. So maybe we can have our own impromptu conference, if you will, where we can all sit together and go over those materials. That's what we're hoping will come of those conference materials being posted online, those resources.
We had a chance to contact, I don't know her last name, but her name is Deanna over in Monterey at the League of Cities. Have you guys been contacting her? I was talking with Councilmember Roland Resendez, and that was a number that he gave me was for her. I haven't had a chance to call her yet, but I was going to try to reach out to her. I guess she works for the Monterey Bay rep portion of the League of Cities.
Yeah. We have not spoken with her, but we can definitely call her.
I have her. I don't know the zip or the first 3 of the area code, but I do have her phone number to hand off to you guys.
That would be perfect. Thank you.
So Amber, I appreciate that, and I think that would be really great, like to get some video or some information from the conference. My only the only problem with that is that when you go to a conference, you have the biggest asset is having that interaction. So you're going to have so. What I would ask, if it's at all possible, and I think even doing it in conjunction with Monterey, maybe even some of the other, local jurisdictions that might be interested, having like an expert, and I say that in quotes because I'm not sure exactly what that means for each topic, but having an expert that even as we view it, if that's the format, that we can still engage in some type of dialogue, some type of Q&A, and then even bounce around ideas. I mean, that's the biggest benefit of going to a conference that we won't get if we simply just watch what other people are doing during the conference. It's just really a one way, getting information. It's not really that two-way dialogue where you really get some really rich ideas and information that way. So I would ask that if we do something like that, I think it would be great, and if we could get some people that would be able to facilitate and answer questions and do some Q&A, that sort of thing.
And can I just say, that training, if it can't be done through a conference, it certainly could be done internally in an open meeting here. But we need to know exactly what the subject matters are. As I'm hearing it, would be general duties of the Planning Commission, duties and responsibilities, state ethics, and the Brown Act, perhaps?
That, and also, I think what's really important is the procedures of that is. I know I have a handbook that's from the League of Cities, and it goes into how planning commissioners evaluate applications. and there's a process that's going. Sometimes, for example, one of the issues that comes up, an application may be in conformance to a general plan, or maybe conformance to land use designation. But is it right for the community? Is it there's a certain threshold there that or a sense of entitlement from the applicant, because he's presenting an application that conforms to land use policy, but maybe there's other issues that need to be considered when a planning commissioner does evaluate an application, other than just land use. And how far can, what's the priority of the rules and principles involved in that? So that's what I would really like to zero in on, and have that as one of the topics of discussion.
And the other thing that was for me really what I was really interested in the conference, all of this is like all the practical matters that I think are super important, because we need to be able to know how to comport ourselves during these meetings and go through the decision-making process and be able to read the documents, understand, and do all of that stuff. That's all practical stuff. The other side of that, though, that was really interesting about the conference was they were talking about sort of the hot topics, so pressures from the state, moving forward with housing, with all the issues around housing, growth, technology. How do you how is technology impacting city and county growth? So those kinds of things that aren't so practical. They're more about future thinking, being progressive as a community. Obviously, those are harder to train around, but I think those are really important. And I think at that conference, it would have been really exciting because you have the benefit of everybody from the different jurisdictions talking about their ideas and then talking about the projects that they've been involved in and how maybe you could duplicate it in your communities. So I don't know that we can get that richness because we can't, duplicate that level of a conference, but something that at least touches on some of those really hot issues around like housing and pressures from the state and technology, et cetera. That would be really, really needed.
Thank you. And the challenge we have here is that how long was the conference supposed to last?
3 days.
Okay, 3 days. So we're talking about a whole lot of material here, but I'm sure something can be worked out.
And one other thing is on, I think what we follow is called the Roberts Rules of Order. Is that correct?
Yes, Roberts Rules or Rosenberg's rules.
Rules of Order, right. There's certain procedures that need to be followed. When to comment on an application, after what I've always learned, and I've been doing this for a long time, and I've certainly, have had some growing pains going through it. I enjoy doing this. I really do. It's a challenge. I think that I'm somewhat good at it. But I've learned when to express opinions. And as a chairman, and sometimes. I might cringe a little bit when there's opinions expressed prior to public hearings being open or closed, being open. So, I mean, that's just some of the issues that I think I would like clarification on for all of us. And I'm still learning here. I've been here doing this for 14 years, and I'm still learning. So it'd be for my edification. Also, for sure.
Okay.
I appreciate you guys working on this, getting something together for us. Yeah. Okay. Where are we on here now?
Before you move on, Commissioner Boyd, staff has pointed out to me that we don't want any, speaking of rules and procedures, we don't want any discrepancy. And would you allow us to move back to items number 3 and 4 on the agenda briefly so that I can address something there? What I'm going to ask you to do is actually read those into the record, open the public hearing, and state that it's going to remain open until the March 28th, 2019 regular Planning Commission meeting and the continuance of those items at that time.
Okay. So I'll reread items 3 and 4 and then state that we're going to open the public hearing and continue it till March 28th.
Yes, keep
Okay.
the public hearing open and continue the public hearing at that.
Okay, so I'll read it and then I'll open up the public hearing and we'll continue it.
Perfect. Thank
Okay.
you. Please.
Item number 3, Site and Architectural 2018-19, Jose Rodriguez. The applicant is requesting site and architectural approval to construct a 10,000 square foot industrial warehouse on 6.57 acres located at 110 Fallon Road, further identified as San Benito County Assessor's Parcel 051-120-019. This parcel is located in the light industrial M1 zoning district, north of Fallon Road and east of Technology Parkway, CEQA categorically exempt. No staff report is required. I open up the public hearing now at 2 minutes to 7, and we will keep this public hearing. Oh, is there anyone? I think I've already asked. No one wants to speak on the item.
No cards. No cards.
No cards. So we'll keep the public hearing open until March 28th. Item number 4, Site and Architectural Review 2019-1, RS1 Group, Incorporated, Nina Ray. The applicant is requesting site and architectural approval for the construction of a 4,331 square foot Denny's restaurant on a 0.81 acre site. The project is located within the general commercial GC zoning district at Highway 25 and Tres Pinos Road, further identified as San Benito County Assessor Parcel number 056-250-070, CEQA mitigated negative declaration. No speakers on this item?
We should officially open the public hearing.
Oh, officially. Oh. See, that's why I need to attend this conference. Perfect example of it right now. Okay, open the public hearing at 1 minute, 2 minutes to 7. Any speakers on the item number 4?
None.
We will continue the public hearing till March 28th. And that concludes the public hearing agenda.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so we're in new business, and we're going to continue that. Any old business?
No old business.
Planning Department reports?
None at this time, Chairperson Anyway.
Okay. And Planning Commission reports? Any reports from the Planning Commission?
I have nothing to report on.
No? No reports? Okay. I entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn the meeting?
I second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned till March 28th. Thank you for coming to the Planning Commission. Thank you. Yes.
Hi, Danny. Oh, yeah, I haven't met you. Yeah, I think I've seen your name on some of the documents.
That's the
that I've
first
read.
thing.
Yeah,
We'll
nice
work.
to meet
The
you.
Planning Commission starts at 6 o'clock.
You know, I